Man of God, welcome to our studios tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, and we're happy to have you. I know that this has been quite a stressful day for pastors, as it were, but we're happy you could join us tonight. So let's get the conversation underway. I will start with you, Reverend Dr. Frimpong Manso. Does Ghana really need a national cathedral now, and why?
Good evening to your cherished listeners. I'm very grateful that I'm here tonight, and I want to put it on record that I've come here to express my views on these issues. It might not reflect the views of the Board of Trustees or the Assemblies of God Church, and so I take personal liability on what I will share.
Okay.
Does Ghana need the presence of God at this time? If I want to rephrase that question.
Really?
Ghanaians claim to be godly, that we know God. In some of our proverbs, we say, "Nyo bin a chirab of Nyame," and the rest. And in BT, African Christian philosopher have put it this way: Africans are notoriously religious. So we will define whether we will explain whether we need this cathedral in existential terms. Do we feel the presence of God? I remember God told the Israelites after they have traveled several times in tents and they were moving. God was always with them, but he said, "Build me a tabernacle so that I will dwell among them." God is a spirit and he dwells everywhere. His presence is felt everywhere. So that tabernacle was a symbolism of a presence of God. Without it or with it, there is always God. And of course, Ghanaians are not building this to say that we are now bringing God or we are invoking God in our presence. But I think the vision of the president, as I've known, is to reinforce our culture, our beliefs, and our aspiration. So doing this cathedral, the question is, do we really want to be a people who claim that we are a nation under God? And the answer will be for you to answer. My belief is that it is very, very important if we can do this, at least to say that for Ghana, we acknowledge the presence of God. It's like refocusing the phrase, Jinyame. So I think Ghana really needs it, and I think it's a step in the right direction.
Well, I would like to hear Bishop Benny Wood on this matter, probably before I come back with a question for Dr. Frimpong Manso. So, do we need a cathedral?
Not at the moment.
Okay. So we need one.
Yes.
We need a national cathedral.
Well,
we need one, but not now.
You see, I think that we have to first of all find out the purpose. What do we want to achieve with the National Cathedral?
He says that to create, if you will, a symbolic presence of God as a nation.
Yes, but the point is that if we are talking about something symbolically, why don't you go for the real thing?
Well, but you're building a cathedral and it's supposed to be representing God's presence.
See, the point is that you can put up that cathedral and Ghanaians will let you know it's not important because they will still go to their forest. Because they get closer to God than in our auditoriums. Number two, there is no country in this world that the National Cathedral has added any spirituality to that nation.
Okay.
It has always been something that is done that sometimes you don't even know the mind behind it.
Okay.
So, and people talk about this Michelangelo and others in the Sistine Chapel, and when they make those comparisons, I feel sad about it because then it tells me that it's not even about God. Because when you listen to some of the reasons, you see they keep contradicting themselves because we don't need it. The reason why they keep contradicting because we don't need it.
Okay.
If we need it, there will be no contradiction. Because those Michelangelo and others, they did not put up those edifices because they want people to come and have a look at it. They just wanted to put a place for God to. And that time, they also had people, they have members, they need a church. So it was put up basically for church service.
Okay. not necessarily as a national monument.
It just happened that it's a beautiful thing.
Okay.
And because it has lasted long, automatically turns out to become
a tourist.
Because when you go to Jerusalem, there is nothing beautiful about where Jesus was born, where he stayed and all that. But people go there because it has kept long and it has some spiritual meaning. But here right now, in Ghana, look around where the cathedral is going to be built.
We'll come to that place, the location.
I have said that.
Okay.
If we want a national, if we just want to have a name, National Cathedral, so that God will know that, oh, Ghanaians have remembered me, let's give him Rich Church. If that's what God wants, let's give him the Rich Church. And say, God, take it. We'll refurbish it.
But Rich Church belongs to a denomination right now.
But all National Cathedrals belong to a denomination.
Well,
everywhere. That's why this one is different.
Exactly. I mean, this one would be national, would not necessarily be pre-named for any denomination, so to speak.
That's what I'm saying. It is not necessary. That's why no nation has been able to do that, because it's not necessary.
No, several nations have done it. The places across Africa, like Nigeria, Abuja. Yes.
Africa. You always talk about Africa. You're talking about Africa. You see, that even brings the discussion to another dimension. Why Africa? We always do things to represent something that is not really important. That is our nature. You understand? Look, we have so many things we have to do. For me, if we talk about National Cathedral, we are talking about national, and then we're talking about cathedral that's associated with church.
Okay.
So let's say the National Cathedral has come to fix a problem. What problem would the National Cathedral fix for Ghana? What problem would the National Cathedral fix for the church?
Okay, so those questions I will direct to Reverend Dr. Frimpong Manso. What problems will building the cathedral actually fix for Ghana?
You see, when people don't understand what they are arguing about, when the historical perspective is wrong, and when the intention is to throw dust on the eyes of people, it becomes very difficult for some of us to argue. I'm telling you. Quoting history, Michelangelo and the rest, let me tell you, the Reformation Europe, there were two ethics that controlled the whole Europe: to the glory of God and for the good of mankind.
Okay.
So all the development, architecture and everything, science, engineering and everything was first done to the glory of God. God was the focus, and then for the common good. And of course, in those days, before the Reformation and of course the Industrial Revolution, there was only one church. So the church and the state was even synonymous. So there was no need to have the phrase national cathedral or what. But it was something that evolved. So it was an evolutionary process. So the System or the background of those days is different from these days. The one that was built in Washington, which is a bit later, or Nigeria, some other nations, there was specific focus. And the focus was not necessarily only for worship, but it's a symbol of a corporate culture. That their nation under God, they recognize the presence of God, and for other state functions could be done there. So the idea that you have a nation that has got let me say, about 70% claim to be Christians, which I argue because of the kind of things that I see in the nation. And if we want to erase this symbol, to me, and if it is especially the burden of the head of state, then I don't see anything wrong. We may argue about other problems which we will tackle, but I have always rhetorically asked, stop the National Cathedral in the next 100 years. If Ghanaians do not change, our condition will be worse. People are thinking about the cost, but I've always said the money that is being wasted through corruption, mismanagement, and whatever cannot be compared with what the National Cathedral will cost, and this money is not going to even come from the government purse. People are claiming it's coming from the government purse. We, the people who are doing it, are saying that we are going to ask our members. If Church of Pentecost alone has been able to build what they have at Gomuafete, Assemblies of God churches and all the churches, when the churches started building schools and hospitals, we were able to do it. And now people don't even trust the integrity of the ministers that together we can build one edifice to the glory of God. By the way, the National Cathedral is just a symbolism, but it will also represent Ghanaians. You have a nation, about 70% claim or profess to be Christians. And even those who doesn't belong to the Christian faith, they still acknowledge the presence of God. And to have such an edifice to recognize the presence of God, it will not be by accident.
Don't we have too many churches already to represent that we're a nation that honors God one way or the other? Except for the fact that we build a national cathedral.
The question is, the function could be different. Yesterday, if you had watched the CNN, Senator John McCain passed on. He's from Phoenix, Arizona, very, very far. They brought the remains to the Washington National Cathedral for this ceremony to be done. To me, we have got people like...
But this is meant to honor God. Why? It becomes, if you will, funeral grounds for presidential aspirants or whatsoever.
No.
Does this serve the purpose? I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm trying to reason on the lines of the comments you made earlier. This edifice is meant to be raised to honor God. And then it becomes, if you will, where they hold religious services, including holding funeral services for politicians or whosoever. How does that necessarily honor God?
Well, if we read the whole concept of a cathedral, even probably the name cathedral is the problem we have.
I don't think we are building a church. Let's say a church.
The building have more than the church or the corporate church service.
Okay.
According to the one who had the vision, the president, there will be other state functions.
Okay.
Like swearing in of presidents and others that may also take place there.
That would no longer be held at the Independence Square like before.
Possibly, that's what I think. So I think that it's broader than just going there.
Then we don't need a cathedral.
Well,
I'm sorry.
That's what I'm thinking.
From this point.
I will not argue against you. I'm saying that for me, I see it as something good. Today, we do not understand it.
Okay.
You know, Ghanaians are so myopic. We look exclusive as if our world is the walls of Ghana. And we don't really want to look outside to be pragmatic and see. And so when certain things are coming, we close ourselves and we say it is not necessary. And to me, the president has been visionary. It's like an old man who was planting a coconut. He was about 85. A young boy said, "Why are you doing this?" He said, "It is because of the next generation." We can argue and argue and argue and argue, and we can find 1,001 reasons why it is not necessary. But one day, we will appreciate why it was done.
Let me tell you something.
Okay, carry on.
We have been, look, I think that this thing, last year, you know, the president said this on the 6th of March. Last year,
yes.
11th of March, I was on my program and I said, everything that is going on today, I said that's exactly what's going to happen. You see, this idea of even looking for a symbol of 70% people, what is that? I mean, I don't want to be part of any symbol representing any 70% anything. If we are 70%, what I expect our leaders to do is to have a vision and said, we are 71. We are having a strategy. In 10 years, we are going to be 80. In 20 years, we are going to be 90. In 50 years, we are going to be 100. We are going to evangelize this nation in 10. When we have turned this nation into 100%, you don't even need even a stone, just one stone.
Okay. Is enough. We could actually raise a pillar.
You don't even need, you see, that's what I'm telling you, that we Christians, in Ghana at this moment, look, we are supposed to be the light and the salt. We are supposed to give hope. And so when we are engaged in material ministry and the society is resistant, we have no business going ahead. It doesn't matter what the intention is, because our basic responsibility on earth is to care for the souls and the welfare of people. How that money we are going to put in that cathedral, what will be the use of it? Accra is not Ghana. Yeah, you get what I'm saying? Accra is not Ghana. Look at around Accra. Why do we want to invest that money? Christian Council, Pentecostal Council, National Association of Charismatic Christian, NAC, they've been here for how long? I want my senior minister. How many times have they met to decide that they want to put up a national cathedral? Look, I believe that we are pushing the president into a situation where he himself right now doesn't even understand that.
Well, but I understand that he was the visionary behind.
But when he brought the vision, he threw it to the clergy.
Okay, so they could advise him.
Exactly. We are the custodians of the vision he has, so he gave it to us. I believe that we should have let the president understand that when it comes to Christianity, single monuments doesn't matter because it has no basis in the New Testament.
Wow. Okay. So he reckons, and I believe that for the many who are listening right now, with the several people who are saying we don't need a cathedral, so to represent our Christianity in Ghana in such a time as this, whatever purpose, if you will, whatever multi-purpose the cathedral is going to be used for, we don't need it. So why wasn't it that when the president brought this vision and he threw it to the clergy, of whom I believe you're one of them, you didn't say, what was the need to support this, besides all the things that you've stated, other than advising him against it?
In the first place, it is very, very few, in fact, minority, slightest minority, who are claiming that is majority polluting the atmosphere. You can have a full bag of rice, and you can have a handful of dust. Mix it with the rice, and the whole rice will be useless. You can have a drum of water and put a bottle of kerosene in it. So we are having very, 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 very few people, for one reason or the other, who are infiltrating and confusing the masses, just to make the idea bad. And you know, Ghana, everything, there's politics in it. You do these things, and especially if it has come from a political party or a president vision, we will argue about this. The next thing is to make even the man unpopular. And then it brings certain reactions. People reacted against the independent. I remember when the VAT came, people even died. NHIS, people fought against it.
But those are national policies meant to help, if you will, the general populace. We're talking about a building, an edifice, which is meant to serve a religious purpose, and also serve the state one way or the other in holding funerals and whatever other activities, if you will, national social activities that they want to hold. It doesn't necessarily belong in the category of, if you will, state policies which are meant to help, or which are back and forth building the nation.
You are strengthening my argument.
Okay.
The argument is this: even if state policies are normally opposed by Ghanaians, and people have a wrong perception about this, and they can throw that, whip people's sentiment and passion, they can reach somewhere. My argument is, today we are chastising the entity that brought us education, the entity that has brought us clinics, the entity that has contributed so much to society, because we see this as irrelevant. But one day, probably those days, we might have passed on the scene. Then the mistake we had committed today, if we we believe that there is God first in everything, at least let's give God the benefit of doubt, because nobody will trust in God and will be put to shame. For the nation to say that there is God, we recognize him, a nation under God, and we are doing this, there may not be so much logical reasons to understand, to say what you want. But whether it's logical or it's not logical, the results will prove. And I tell you that it is very, 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 to me, it is very logical. It is needed. It is timely. It should have been done yesteryears. And it is more needed than today or never. People will say that there's poverty, there's hunger, there's what? The churches are already contributing a lot, even though we are not blowing out.
So why don't we rally those resources that we're contributing more to take care of the needs of the society, other than building an edifice?
Jesus, one day, a lady called Mary poured down an alabaster oil at Jesus' feet, used the hair to clear it, and Judas was saying, this money could have been used to help the poor. In Akan, my language says, Yesukura ijahim. Anything to do to God, for God, is never a waste. That is what really hurts me when we are saying that there's waste. This nation, if we will manage our resources very, very, very well, we won't be where we are. We had the GNTC, we had the Ghana Railways, we had the state fishing, you had this, this nation has gone down, 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 down. So doing the National Cathedral will not be the thing that is going to put this nation down. It should be the change of attitude. I have challenged everybody on the media. Let us stop this National Cathedral. I don't care. God is within us. Whether National Cathedral or National Cathedral, there is a God. But if we don't change our attitude, nobody should think that the amount that we use to spend the National Cathedral, spend to build it, is going to be the money that is going to transform Ghana to make it like Malaysia or Singapore,
but it will help.
Or England.
We have basic. I mean, there's something that we need to observe, and I'm surprised that as the church, whose focus or whose standpoint must be to help the nation to be driven in the right direction in terms of how we advise our state leaders in conducting some of these things. We rather want to put money into building an edifice which can sit there, which can sit there sometimes for months on end without being used. All the purpose it serves is that, this is what we built in Ghana to represent that we believe in God.
We are 70%.
In Ghana, we build stadiums and they are not used. We don't get any argument whether we should build stadium or not. In Ghana, we take people to go and watch World Cup and do everything and bring them back, but we feel it is right. It is so sad and very, very painful when people are trivializing the things of God. Possibly it is the church that has failed. We haven't discipled and teach people the value of God in our national thinking. In fact, some years ago, I was even called to speak at Legon to speak to the Faculty of Business about this God factor. We can never throw away God factor in our national development and in our national agenda. For us, let us give God a chance and we will see the results.
A quick question. Have so far as a nation that believes that we're 70% Christians or whatsoever, without the National Cathedral built, have we not honored God?
This argument can be answered this way. Some people ask me, do we have to pay tithe? Whether you pay tithe or you don't pay tithe, God is God. Whether National Cathedral or not National Cathedral, it will not diminish, it will not make God less, it will not make God known. But when opportunity comes to honor God, let us take the opportunity to lift up high his name.
Okay.
And it will be a blessing to the nation.
Okay, you know what?
Bishop Wood.
First of all, we don't have shortage of God in Ghana. Yeah.
But God is only one.
Yes. The point I am making is that in the sub-region of West Africa and even Africa, I don't think there's any nation that is so religious and gets involved in the things of God than Ghana. That's one. Number two, you see, as for scriptures, where we are today, where people find it difficult to respect pastors, but are sitting in the church because of hell. Because of the way we take scriptures and always twist it to justify something we are doing. You remember when this prosperity gospel is about to start, we started changing the boot of Peter and changing the dress of Jesus. And then the pastors started dressing like Hollywood celebrities and all that. Look at what is happening now in our TV on televisions. Look at the display, to the extent that the president himself went to Global Evangelical Conference and told them that he himself has even identified a problem in the church. And that there seemed to be a clerical competition. There seemed to be a competition among the church. The church seemed to be so much fixated on material things. And that is attracting the eyes of the taxman. And so if we don't put our act together, that is why it is us. We have Islam here, we have Buddhism, we have Christian. It is the church that behave badly to attract tax. This is the problem we need to solve. It's not the cathedral.
But the church pays tax already with all the structures.
I'm saying that. Why is it that the president himself identify that the church is shifting from its core mandate and get it, because we open the door for these guys who are now giving the church a bad name through the misrepresentation of scripture and turning the boat of Peter into a ship. And turning it into a Bentley and a Benz, and turning the clothes of Jesus into a suit.
Into designer wear.
That is the problem. And we keep doing it. Anytime we want to do something, we take a scripture and twist it and try to force it on people. Well, but it's a door. What we are doing today, if we use scriptures to put up this and we have opened a door, one day somebody will come with something else. Well, because that's what scripture is. The devil use it and anybody can use it.
A point noted. However, those so-called clergymen who are engaged in this kind of lifestyle, they're known.
How did it happen?
Well, I'm coming. They're known. However, on this side of this National Cathedral,
so now you are deciding who is good and who is bad.
No. I have not said that. I haven't said anybody was good or bad. I said those who engage in these activities, they are known. God's word says that by their fruits you shall know them. I'm only stating the fact. Oh, quite a few, though.
Only a few.
Quite a few.
It's widespread.
Well, granted, but I said, for instance, where you notice them probably will be on television and stuff. I don't do much watching of that.
Are not on TV.
Okay, so you probably have them a lot in your cluster where you operate. Granted, but what we're talking about now is about, if you will, higher profile clergymen whose mandate is at the top echelon of the Christian body in Ghana, representing, if you will, the Christian focus of honoring God. And the backing of it is to be able to raise or build a monument for Christianity or for the love of God for our nation. The two.
Yeah, but the point you are making.
Yes.
You see, I call Doctor as my senior.
Yes.
So
after
this discussion, he's still my senior.
Absolutely.
Nothing has changed. If I see him, I will still bow to him. But it's just that we are disagreeing on something. It is this same senior clergyman that has brought us this problem.
Say the seniors are causing trouble.
Because they are the ones that we have looked up to since our childhood.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
So sometimes even talking is a bit...
It's difficult, but it has to be said. So Reverend Dr. Frimpong, so where do we go from here? Because it's difficult, you know. I understand the point you made that a few people are trying to put kerosene inside the water to make it.
If doctor said that, I don't agree. You see, it's just that I'm a kind of a Pan-Africanist in terms of my orientation.
Okay.
So some of us, we are very much into social things.
Okay.
So we calculate everything in terms of the social benefits.
Well, because the church is supposed to impact nations in the social dimension as well, besides the spiritual.
Exactly.
You know?
So it's not like we are a group sitting somewhere and want to. No, I don't think so, because we all sit in auditoriums.
Yeah.
So we are not against a cathedral per se. Mm-hmm. You understand? But
the investment,
the dynamics concerning this one.
There's some questions about. Maybe I'll let you talk before, and then we'll come to the location and the effect of the construction. Because as it is, we have word that they have to demolish some structures and relocate certain high-profile functionaries in Ghana as well, and that kind of stuff. All of that has implications. We need to be able to discuss that a bit. But let's hear your take on.
Well, I want to respond to what the bishop said.
Okay.
By saying that we are using scriptures. I have tried as much as possible not even to use scripture to defend or not to defend, because I know that God is a spirit, and those that worship him should worship him in spirit and in truth. But I'm a pragmatist. When somebody is a pragmatist, he's open for new ideas. He's open for change. He sees the end of certain things and just give room. So my take is this. For example, your station did recently Adum Praise or something like that. It would have been wonderful if we should have had a national cathedral for all believers to have gone there together to worship God. Just like, we'll be seeing Honorable Busumuru Kufiana off in no time, in some few weeks.
Okay.
I would have loved that we can have such a national cathedral where people will go there and do that service. So for me, I'm not coming from theological point of view or social or cultural point of view, but as a pragmatist, whenever anything comes in, you have to weigh the pros and the cons. And if you see that the end will be good, it will bring us together. It will really put Ghana on the international scene. It will really tell us that we are, so for me...
The cathedral alone?
Not alone. We are not speaking of the cathedral. For example, the Flagstaff House, now Jubilee House, when the former President Kufuor had wanted to do it, people were fighting against.
No, but that's the seat of government. This is supposed to
the
help.
The seat of government is not higher than the seat of God. I want to say that. The seat of God. And I believe in God.
So the cathedral will be the seat of God in Ghana.
Yes, symbolic seat of God.
But that is even more dangerous.
Lord help
Doctor, know that is a very dangerous thing.
Okay. Now this is getting okay. Let me go into a few of our messages and then we'll come back. Now we're going to talk. When I come back, we're going to talk about the location and the impact of the construction in a minute. But we're on Facebook. Kobna Atakakra Forcing says, stop this cathedral and provide classroom for people's studying under trees. What is the country losing at the moment without the cathedral? That's exactly the question I've been asking. Dorothy Dole, Friedlander. Are you a German or okay? He says, if you believe in God, look after the people. Absolutely. Okay. Kwabenya Kevin Solomon. He says, if building it will cause division, the government must stop it. What division are we talking? Okay, it looks like the Christian front is it? Okay. Joe Menu Jr. says, to those people opposed to the cathedral and talking about the poor and development, they should read Mark chapter 14, verse 3 to 7. Okay, I believe that Doc just quoted that. Ahmed Asiedu says, Africans have more churches than factories, and yet we're the poorest in the world. Okay, and that's on WhatsApp. There's loads of it, but there's a few on WhatsApp. Okay, let me see this one. It is Bishop Benny Wood. The more I listen to him, the more angry I become. Doesn't he have poor people in his family, and yet he has a car and a house and renting an expensive apartment? This man must know you too much.
He doesn't know me.
He doesn't know you. But he says you are renting in an expensive apartment. Probably it's your landlord.
He doesn't know me. He doesn't know
Probably
me.
It's your landlord.
He doesn't know me.
Okay, all right. And Lord help me. But he's getting angry at every time he listens to you. Sorry, sir. We're having a discussion. It's meant to help us move on to build our nation. Okay, one says, oh boy. Okay, so good evening. I think the building of the cathedral is not a bad idea, but demolishing buildings put up with the taxpayers' money is the issue. Yes. A lot of taxpayers don't even have a decent place to live. Change the location to cut the cost and wastage. Thanks. And that's from Joanna also in Odumasi Krobo. Joanna, point well made. Very good point. One from Nana who says, good evening. Please, is Reverend Frimpong Manso saying National Cathedral will stop corruption in Ghana? Yeah, okay, that's the question. That's the question. That's not what you're saying.
No.
Okay. Yeah. So there you have it, Nana. Another person. Okay. Eddie in Tama says, are our church buildings not enough? What is going to be the purpose of the cathedral? About 70% of Ghanaians are Christians but still corrupt. As for this one, I'm not sure God will even be excited about it. Let's set our priorities right. Eddie in Tema, point well noted. Okay, so this is, for instance, this probably, I can say, if I can hazard a guess, will be the thoughts of very large numbers of Ghanaians, including Christians. Okay, including Christians, or maybe you say churchgoers. Wisdom from a shaman says, I am finding it difficult to understand why the project only needs constructed at that location. Demolished state buildings less than 5 years old for this project. What if, let's say, half of the attendants at a program bring their cars? Where would the car park be? Or more buildings will be demolished for that one too. How will other parts of the country see infrastructure development if Accra is the only place for such projects? Okay, we'll stop. Your question, I will direct to Reverend Dr. Frimpong Manso, because
he can't answer that one.
Well, but he's a lead person, a member of the board of trustees. So at least some of the discussions which are there, he will be able to answer to. Okay, let's. One from John in Medina who says, please find your own land and build a cathedral. Don't involve government or government land. Okay, that's some suggestion too, because after all, it's not the state building it. Per my understanding of the discussion so far, the state only is contributing land, and the structure or the edifice, if I'm wrong, please put me right, and the structure is going to be contributingly built by the churches.
I must say I have enjoyed these discussions.
Okay.
It tells me that Ghanaians cannot be taken for a ride.
Not at all.
In fact, Kabath, one Swiss theologian, said, in the era of enlightenment, let the dogmatic slumber sleep. So when people are questioning things and asking healthy questions, it will help us to get the best for the nation.
Okay.
Yes. Many people like me will ask why that place, and this question should be answered by architects and engineers, not laymen. That's where we are missing the trend. And you don't just go and build anything anywhere. In every country, there's a ceremonial landmark. If you go landmark or area, if you go to Washington, there's a particular area. If you go to London, there's a particular area. If you go to France, there's a particular area. In Accra here, we have a state house. We have, which is now the Parliament House. We have the National Stadium. We have the National Theatre. We have this conference center. So that place is becoming a ceremonial area. And it is ideal that things of that nature that's going to lift African culture, African renaissance, and tell us where we are. You don't put it in a corner. We are international people. You go to any part of the world, things of that nature are brought together. Two, for example, recently they had the Olympics Games in London. There, East London, around Stratford area, they destroy all the buildings, Westfields Mall, not Westfield, even where Ashimolo Church is. They took all those things and constructed the stadium and the shops and everything.
That is the United Kingdom. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of money.
I went to Germany before the World Cup, if you had been to Berlin, before the World Cup. But then after the World Cup, they changed the whole area. But then it's cost-benefit analysis. People think what we are going to do is going to be a waste. It is not going to only generate income, not only showcase African culture, our architect and everything. It will also make that area complete and say that we are moving the lawyers. And people talk as if the president, who has been a lawyer, who believes in the rule of law, who thinks that the judiciary is the third estate of this government, will throw them away. I have said, even so, when somebody makes a kiosk illegally, probably she may be selling a peanut for a living. You just cannot push that person away. People think this thing started this year, few months. In fact, 2 years ago, the sword was cut, and last year, the building was unveiled. So do you think that for all these years, there wouldn't be talks? Do you think
has there been? I believe that people are asking those questions because they don't know. Because and you being here as a member, a trustee member of the board, you can speak to it that, oh, actually this discussion has been done, so and so is what has been done.
I believe there has been a lot of discussions.
It's not that you are aware of.
I am aware that discussions are going on. The lawyers and the judges will be relocated to a better place, more comfortable and a secure place that will give them even peace to do their work. Yes, we will lose money, but we are not wasting money. There's a difference between losing and wasting. When you spend money for something that is of a worthy cause, it is not waste, because it's another way of reinvestment. And I want to tell Ghanaians, as Ghana is developing, these things will be normal. I think even in Accra, as we grow and there's evolutionary change, time and again, we may relocate houses, offices, and businesses. So this is not going to be the first, and this is not going to be the last. And we should not make this to serve as a president, as if the whole world is crumbling down. We are moving these houses, and we are going to lose a lot. We are going to waste. It is never going to be a waste. I think recently they thought about changing Accra coastline and beautifying it. You wait and see the number of properties that they will pull down to bring our coastline to a standard. It will always happen, and we must be open-minded and prepared to see if we want to change. Because this is normal. Change is painful. It's very difficult. It costs us. But these things are normal if Ghanaians want to move from where we are to be part of the next world. So
we don't see any change of the decision to build this cathedral, despite the pleas of many Ghanaians who think that this will be displaced priority.
Is for the president. I cannot speak his mind.
Okay,
it's purely in his domain.
But couldn't the clergy, as you who are on the board, who are okay, this one it looks like is a private-public partnership in building this. Couldn't you advise him to say, Mr. President, this is a laudable idea, but maybe it's not the time yet, or maybe let's find another location in order to be able to minimize the losses?
Honestly, I would rather be disappointed if the place is changed. I'm telling you, I can't speak for the president, but I think that place is the best. We should count the cost. People have not seen the whole picture. They haven't seen the benefit, and we are drawing conclusions. So if the president chooses to change the place, it is his prerogative. But if he still chooses to maintain it, let us see Ridge Hospital, the old buildings, the change that has come because the old gave way. See the legal offices complex. The old buildings were there. See the change. I believe that as such a prime place, we won't remove these things and bring something of less important. I think people who
But the cathedral doesn't serve the same purpose as a hospital and the law offices.
We see. That is where we are concluding. It doesn't necessarily have to serve the purpose. I'm saying that I am not an architect, I'm not an engineer, I cannot draw a crass landscape. So people might have sat down. The president has got the Council of State, he has got the cabinet, and I'm glad that somebody has even taken it to the law courts. And so let us leave these things. I think it will find its natural level. But I must say that I'm happy that Ghanaians are talking. In the multitude of counsel, there is safety. And Aristotle has said, in the middle of vices, there is virtue. So out of these things, something good will come. And whatever will result,
I pray so.
Will be for the betterment
Bishop
of
Wood, maybe your comment and then we'll carry on.
Well, I initially, I wasn't really concerned about the location because I didn't know. But when I got to know that it was close to Ray Church, that's when I said, okay. Honestly, I felt that this is a wrong timing. It will create more problem for the church.
What about the location?
Yes, the location. So I'm coming to the location now. And I'm said that. So I said, okay. I mean, Ridge, Ridge, they've upgraded it. They put some new one. It's so if it's just, national events and all that, but from what he's saying, it's like something represent God, the seat of God and all that, okay, which is a very senior. But you see, there's something I think about. In Africa or in Ghana, we like to crowd ourselves in one corner due to one thing or the other. But when you go to other countries, you see the sparsity of things. You understand? Look, if they want to go ahead, by all means, they want to have a seed for God. I believe it can rather be better if they take advantage to develop another community.
Where places where they even bear land
that will
larger.
Move people
there
rather than, because here, we have been talking for years that Accra, the capital, should even be taken away. So we have identified a problem long ago. And so for me, there are ethics involved. When the church is involved in something that seems to be unethical, it worries me, because we have all decided in Ghana here that Accra should be moved out because of crowd of the crowd and the traffic.
We need to basically decentralize the development.
The church is rather going to get involved in something within the same Accra that will increase the, So those are some of the things that why. Because for me, the way I see the church, I think that even though whatever we do, people will talk about us, but sometimes we can minimize. We can minimize
the gossip.
Some of the things people say about it. Because at the end of the day, when our fathers are gone, we are the ones that are going to carry the brunt.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe by the time they are gone, people will not trust us anymore, and the churches will be closed because
okay,
the fathers will eat the
sour grapes, and the children's teeth will be set on edge.
Yeah. That's a good scripture to quote.
Doc, I hope that is not what is going to be happening. Well, Dr. Frimpong Manso records that it is many years to come that we will see the value of what is going to be done. So hopefully not. Okay, so our time is almost up. Final comment on this before we close. Reverend Doc.
I want to say that Ghana, we believe in God first. And everything concerning God should be treated with open-mindedness and with objectivity. So let us talk, let us bring our views. But as we are talking, let us not feel that or conclude that anything about the cathedral is a waste of resources or is a misplaced priority. These two things are not the rest, are not the best conclusions, because the cathedral is not going to use state funds. It is the church members who are going to bring our funds. And it is still correct as we say that we are a nation under God, and we are, doing this to the glory of God, and of course showcase our spirituality, our architecture, our culture, and all those kind of things. But let us also accommodate people with divergent views. I think out of these discussions, something good will fashion out, and whatever happens will be for the benefit of the whole nation. So open-mindedness should be the way forward.
Okay. Thank you, though.
Yeah, I know they will be going for a meeting.
Okay, so you wait for the fallout.
Meeting, I hope they would have done some adjustment and maybe slow down and change their mind.
Okay.
A bit. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, men of God. I'm really grateful that you could spend this night with us. And I've had a guest in studio, Reverend Dr. Paul Manso, who's a member of the Board of Trustees for the National Cathedral, and he's also the General Superintendent of the Assemblies of God Church, Ghana. Of course, Bishop Benny Wood is a concerned clergy, leader of the Concerned Clergy Association of Ghana, and great man of God. God bless you. God bless you. For coming through. The Lord bless you. Have a good night. Okay, many thanks to my able producers, Mrs. Michaela Nine, of course, Abraham Ofosofori. My name is Pastor Ransford Abose. It's time to go.